Okay, so yeah, this film was very interesting. It was really good. It's one of those films that like I thought was like like okay, to watch it at first at the beginning really have to dis to watch the film, you have to start and suspend your disbelief just completely off the bat because it's really hard to um fit into um this really goofy points at the beginning that it get explained later and that make it seem realistic and that is really good and it's one of the things that the film does that is really good, but it is also kind of goofy in the beginning. um Kind of like the table shaking or the wife knowing, like, okay, was that her foot? I don't know. Okay, so the beginning scene of The Cure is the detective's wife, Fumi, um was had amnesia, um and she was going to see this doctor for it, and then it cuts to this very comical, happy, upbeat music while you watch a guy kill a prostitute. Um, and then uh, it kind of sets up the whole movie where there's this other guy with amnesia, and he's killing people by hypnotizing them. So he has this lighter, or sometimes he uses water to hypnotize people to cut X's into the victim's neck. Um, so I don't know. That was kind of funny. Oh yeah, so the leading questions. Whenever the detectives would interview somebody, like a someone that they thought was involved in the case, they would ask so many questions. Like they wouldn't ask them like, "Did you do it?" They ask you, "Why did they do it?" Like immediately off the bat, and every one of the victims was like, I don't know. I don't remember doing it, but I guess I must have done it. And it was just like these seem like such leading questions. They also had the questions that were like, did you watch any TV shows, any movies, any books that have this plot? Because they thought that it was like a copycat killing. But it was so funny that was like the one question that persists throughout the whole film. And it was like the first question that they asked was like, do any book plots, any movie plots, any TV plots match this? So that was kind of funny. Uh, okay, so the main character, the main detective was Takabe. Takabe was kind of going insane throughout the film. He was seeing things. So like his wife, Fumi, he saw her hanging from the lamp fixture. Um, and then because he like had a premonition, he drove home like he was on duty as a detective, and he drove home and he like started crying on the floor. It was like this really intense scene, and then his wife was just like, "Oh, why are you here? Why are you at work? Are you okay?" um, this movie almost had. It's very interesting because it's kind of hard to gather like what was happening, or even it's a pretty out there movie. Because like by the end of it, I didn't think that the killer had amnesia. I think he had something that like the detective had that like other people have that make them be able to understand each other, because the detective could understand um uh Amamiya, 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 which was the killer, because they had him in custody pretty much the whole film, and he was the only one who knew him. And then Amamiya even's like, I emptied myself in my studies, and so I could see all of what's in you. And like he said, that only like certain people can understand what I'm saying. And the detective was one of them. I mean, the detective was seeing visions. His partner was seeing visions, and so there was one point where the partner saw him getting killed by uh, Takabe, the detective, and so the next day, he was found dead in his apartment room, and he had handcuffed himself to the ceiling. And I thought immediately that that was like he understood, his partner understood that he was going insane, and he was gonna kill somebody. So he locked himself to his room, and then he ended up killing himself, which was really interesting. Another thing was the X. So at multiple points there was X on the wall. See, this is one of the things I was talking about. We had to suspend disbelief because in the hospital there was a nurse who wanted to cut men and dissect men. That was why she became a nurse, and she ended up getting hypnotized by the guy and cutting open a guy in a public park and peeling off his face. And there was a whole. It was like this whole wax figure. It was really cool, practical effects. Um, but there was it was really goofy because there was a giant X on the wall with like this thick oil, and she rubbed it off, and it was just like, how did that get there? That's so goofy. But then later on, when the partner died, the partner had an X on the wall. He drew an X on the wall because it helped him think. Um, and so I was like, oh, okay, so that makes sense why there was an X on the wall of this hospital. Because beforehand it was just like so goofy, to me at least. But then it ended up making sense. Um, so I mean, Amamiya was definitely like real. Like the killer was definitely real, but also was like I was thinking at the end of it, like my immediately thought was he even real? Was the detective the one doing the killing? um there was this whole like, how did he know the place where he was at the end? How did he know that there was going to be a, like, there was the hanging photograph in the closet of the guy who was in the original video, who taught people how to um hypnotize people to do this? um I think Amamiya was definitely real, but it's very hard to parse through because I could also see it like the detective doing all these things, and it's the detective who's kind of going insane. So Fumi, his wife, at the end, you're shown with like 3 seconds. Her body is being dragged away on like a cart with her X, with her neck cut open with the X pattern. Um, which I before this, Takabe and Fumi were on a ride to a like mental hospital, old folks home type thing, somewhere where that she could be taken care of while he was concentrating on the case. And she was left there, and then he took the train back. In the same train, there was a shot of the same train when he went to the warehouse to kill Amamiya. Um, Amamiya, whatever. Uh, he he took the same train but by himself, which was kind of like a cool dichotomy. But also, was that warehouse even there? I'm kind of almost thinking that like the detective was the one that killed the wife because he took the same train. He was in the area, and we definitely know that he got hypnotized because there was leaking water in the psych ward. Um, there was also this weird thing with like dried out monkey corpses being tied to bathtubs. They had X's in the neck, and I could not tell you entirely what the purpose of that was, but that was really weird and striking imagery because there was this whole alive monkey in the cage at like the killer's place. Um yeah, I mean it was a really cool film. They had really cool sets. Like I heard something like the director talking about like how they used old, like partially dilapidated buildings which they had found working on like old like Yakuza films that were like B rated direct to DVD stuff, which is kind of cool. Um uh it was just a It's a really good and a really interesting film that I not really sure I could myself parse through what exactly happened, but it was really good. I don't know.